everybody. Welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Marvelous Monday. I'm Leslie Watkins. Hi, I hope you're well. Today I'm going to show you how to create wonderful textures in your paper with an embossing folder. And I showed you this last time. This surprise box filled with goodies for some lucky winner who's going to be getting this at my summer stamp camp coming up in August. And if you're interested in learning more about the stamp camp, please go to dandelioncottagedesign.com and subscribe to Notes, and you will be getting an email with all the information about what's coming up in August. And it's going to be fun. It is my first one. It's going to be virtual, so it'll be online, and I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it. I think it's going to be a combination of a Facebook Live and a Zoom, but I'm working on all the details, and as soon as I'm ready, I will get that out to you. So today I have a lot of leftovers, so just to remind you, all of these papers that were used to decorate the box and the tag were original watercolor paintings. And what I did was I painted a big sheet, which you can see on Watercolor Wednesday from last week, and then I cut it up into pieces and I used those to decorate the panels of the box and the tag. Well, today I'm going to make a card to go along with it, and also use the 3D embossing folder. So let me show you. So here's the embossing folder I'm going to be using today. It's called Tasteful Textile 3D Embossing Folder. And then I have some things ready to go here. I have a very vanilla envelope. I've got a piece of bumblebee cardstock, and this is cut to 11 by 4 1/4, scored in half at 5 1/2. Then I have a piece of Misty Moonlight that I've already put through the embossing folder. I'm going to show you how to do this in just a minute from scratch, but I'm going to use that as my mat. These are some scraps I had left over from the watercolor painting, and so what I've done is I've cut one down that I'm going to be using here, and then I have another one that I'm going to show you how I made this tag. And then I have a tiny little piece of scrap, and this just goes to show how even just the least little bit can be something to add to your card. So what I like this one because it has the natural decal edge on it, and so I'm going to be mounting that on this piece of very vanilla cardstock, and this one measures 5 by 3 3/4, and that's going to go on the inside of my card like so. Okay, so that's the overview. I also have some of the in-color enamel dot embellishments that we may or may not use. I just wanted to have them handy in case. And I also have the Label Me Fancy punch. And many of you, I know, have been waiting very patiently for the brand new cut and emboss machine that's going to be released on August 4th. And we're all looking forward to that. But in the meantime, I have my Big Shot machine, which is now retired, But I want to show you how to use the sandwich, which is what we call these different platforms and plates that we use inside the machine to do 3D embossing. Now, there are a lot of different configurations, and it can be a little bit confusing, but when you get the machine, it comes with the thin die. Oh, no. I don't have it here with me. Okay, but it comes with a basic cutting platform, which goes at the bottom. What I have here is the optional magnetic platform, which I like very much because that causes the thinlets and the framelets and all of the cutting dies to stick to it so they don't move around when you're putting it through the machine. And then you have an assortment of other things like the thin die adapter. You have the precision base plate, and here's something that is the 3D embossing folder plate. Okay, so there's a lot of different things to configure, and in your box you should have a little pamphlet that shows you all the different plates and how to use them for different purposes. So for today, I'm going to be using the 3D folder plate and my magnetic base and see how that works. So I already have a piece of Misty Moonlight cut out, and this is cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spritz my paper. So I'm just going to do this offhand. I'm just going to spritz it very lightly with a little bit of water. Just a tad. And then I'm looking for my folder and can't see where I put it. Oh, for Pete's sake. All right, folks. It's right in front of me, as always. So when you put your paper in, just make sure you get that in the area where the texture is. One side is convex and the other is concave. And then what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that the folded hinge of your folder is facing the roller. And then just pass that through the machine. And I'm going to stand up to do this. All right, I'm going to go back to the old way. I'm afraid to force it. I'm using a cutting plate, just a single cutting plate on the top. I think that the this blue one goes with the original platform for the machine, which I don't have out right now, so I'm just going to use the single cutting plate method. And then what you have is this beautifully textured piece of paper. Now this one's slightly damp, so I'm going to go ahead and use the one I did earlier. And I'm just going to assemble this card. So I'm using the liquid glue. And I'm going to place this with the decal edge down. And I'm just sliding it a teeny bit to overlap the edge, just so that that little deckled edge shows up better. And for those of you that are wondering what a deckled edge is, on a piece of fine quality watercolor paper, when the paper is in the mold on top of the pulp, I should say, and is drying on top of the mold, it's a kind of a screen, like a window screen. And at the edges, there's a natural thinning just before the paper, the pulp is finished, and it creates this very soft little torn looking edge effect, and that's called the deckled edge, and that's on all four sides of the paper. Or if it's a watercolor paper that comes off a roll, it's just on the two sides because it's cut on the other two sides. So there's our inside of our card, and I just think that even though there's nothing here, there's nothing to it really, it just adds so much. That little bit of watercolor that would normally be considered a scrap, I think looks charming in there. All right, and then for the cover of our card, I'm going to take my beautiful textured piece. And when you're working with a textured paper like this, the liquid glue really is the best adhesive because it gets into all of those crevices and helps you get good adhesion. Just make sure that that's nice and straight. There we go. Give it a good burnish, spread that glue around so that it gets into all of those nooks and crannies. There we go. And I really like this color combination of the bumblebee and the Misty Moonlight. Now I've got this little scrap of paper. Now here's something a little extra we can do. Let me get a sponge. Let me see where my sponges are. I know I put them in a little box. And I've got so many boxes here now. All right, I'm going to get a new one. Hang on. These are the stamping sponges. They come 3 to a pack. They're very inexpensive. And all you do, or all I do anyway, is I take one, and I'm going to get the big scissors for this. I cut it in half. And then I cut it into quarters, just like that. And now I'm going to be using the Misty Moonlight ink. And I'm just going to sponge the edges. And I'm using the Misty Moonlight because it matches my paper. And it's just going to create a very nice transition between the watercolor paper and the matte, so that it doesn't have that kind of raw edge. And a little bit of the ink is, I'm angling the sponge so a little bit, just a tiny bit of the ink is also getting on the surface to create a nice diffused edge. While I have this out, I'm going to go ahead and do this one too. There we go. Now, of course, the same thing for this side of the embossed paper as well, because you want that glue to get down into all of those, all that little texture that you've got going. All right. Now that just by itself makes a lovely card. And personally, I really like these simple note cards because usually when I'm sending a card, it's about the message that I'm writing inside, not so much about the sentiment. But we can, I'm going to get a piece of very vanilla. I also have the Posted For You stamp set out, which I like very much because I really like this little sentiment that says just a note, and I like these little flowers here. So what I'm going to do, get this out of the way for a moment. I'm taking Just For You. I'm going to mount that on this little block. I just want to see, get it straight on there. And I'm going to take these pretty little flowers. Just a note. And then I'm taking these flowers and I'm going to go around the edge just a little bit. I'll put some scrap paper under here. There we go. I'm going to punch that out. And because I have my sponge handy, I'm going to go around the edges of that as well. And I'm looking for my dimensionals. I'm just going to offset this to the side here, like so. So there's a very simple, quick and easy card that you can make with your leftover watercolor scraps and with a special edition of a beautiful textured background. So again, the stamp set I used here is posted for you. And this embossing folder is called the Tasteful Textile. And I think it's a especially versatile and useful one that you'll want to have on hand. Now before we finish, I want to show you what else you can do with some of your scraps. So here's a little rectangular piece, and I have a piece of the Misty Moonlight that is 2 inches wide and 5 1/4 inches long, and all I did was cut the top with the tag topper, scalloped tag topper punch, which I love. Just slides in there and you can make tags or bookmarks, belly bands, all sorts of things. And then on the back of the tag, I'm just going to put a little piece of very vanilla cardstock to be for a message. So hot here today. It's already 80 degrees and I think it's going to get a whole lot hotter. So there's our cute little tag. And then of course you just put your ribbon through there. So I'm taking just enough to be able to tie the tag onto something. Of course, if it's a bigger something, like say the neck of a mason jar for a flower bouquet or whatever, you'd want to have a little bit more. But then I fold the ribbon into a little loop like that. And I push that point through the front of the tag and then push the tails up through. Pull those out. Get that even. And I think that makes a nice little formation there for the top of the tag. Now just to make sure that that knot doesn't go anywhere, you can take a glue dot and just place that underneath there and then push this down over it. And that'll hold that into place. So there's one tag. I made another one that was a little bit shorter because that was the size of that scrap, and it was particularly nice because it has that deckled edge on it. Here's our card. Here's the box that you saw earlier with the other tag. And I think those are some nice ideas for gift giving. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you will stay tuned for the upcoming Dandelion Cottage Summer Stamp Camp in August. I don't even know the name of it yet. It may change, but you get the idea. And so that's going to be announced in the next week or so. So in order to stay in the loop, please subscribe to Notes at dandelioncottagedesign.com, and I will make sure that you know all about it. So have a great day. Stay well, stay creative, and I will see you next time.